Marcus Blackwood had sworn to build a life of transparency and trust with Olivia Chun after his years of diplomatic deception. But on their 5th anniversary night in Singapore's Marina Bay Sands Infinity Suite, overlooking the glittering skyline from the 57th floor, those same diplomatic skills he'd used to negotiate international treaties would seal his death warrant. If this story grabs you, hit subscribe and join our community for more shocking true crime investigations from around the world. But let's go back to where it all began. The Singapore police force received a call at 9:47 p.m. on June 8, 2024. The voice belonged to Olivia Chun, 34, founder of Neuralink AI, a facial recognition company valued at $800 million. Her words were precise. "This is Olivia Chun at Marina Bay Sands Tower 3, penthouse 5701. I'll just kill my husband. Send detectives immediately." Detective Inspector Raj Krishnan arrived 18 minutes later. Marcus Blackwood, 42, former British diplomatic attaché, and Singapore's most prominent art dealer, lay dead on Italian marble. A 12th-century jade Buddha statue worth $2.3 million rested beside his body, its base blood-stained. Olivia sat in a white leather chair, anniversary dress spotted with blood, hands steady. "He destroyed everything," she told Krishnan. 2 families, 2 wives, 5 years of lies. The crime scene revealed calculated confrontation, not passion. Photographs, bank statements, legal documents, and medical records covered the dining table. Each piece was labeled with timestamps in Olivia's engineering handwriting. The arrangement looked like a business presentation on systematic betrayal. Olivia's parents immigrated to San Francisco from Taiwan in 1987, working 16-hour shifts at a Chinatown dim sum restaurant. Her father died when she was 14, leaving one philosophy: trust algorithms, not people. Numbers never lie. Mitfu scholarship, top of her computer science program. By 28, she'd sold her first startup to IBM for $120 million. Neuralink AI, her second company, revolutionized facial recognition technology across 47 countries. Colleagues called her the calculator because she approached every problem with mathematical detachment. Emotions were variables to control, not indulge. Marcus Blackwood was everything Olivia's data-driven world couldn't measure. Born into British diplomatic money, he'd served as cultural attaché at the UK Embassy in Beijing before entering Asia's high-end art market. His Dempsey Hill Gallery specialized in Southeast Asian antiquities for billionaire collectors and sovereign wealth funds. Where Olivia built her fortune through code, Marcus inherited connections. His family's diplomatic legacy opened doors across Asia's political elite. He spoke Mandarin, Malay, and Thai fluently and understood cultural nuances no algorithm could quantify. They met at a Christie's auction in Hong Kong, September 2018. Olivia was bidding on a Ming Dynasty vase. Marcus noticed her systematic pattern and approached after she won for 4.8 million Hong Kong dollars. "You bid like a computer," he said. Every increment calculated to psychological precision. His observation impressed her. Most people feared or resented her analytical nature. Marcus treated it as art. Their courtship unfolded across 6 months. Private museum viewings, trips to his Cornwall estate, discussions about art and technology intersecting. The proposal came March 2019 at Singapore Botanic Gardens. A 5-carat pink diamond in platinum. But what seduced Olivia wasn't the ring's value. It was Marcus's speech about intellectual equals, about merging her tech empire with his cultural expertise to create something neither could achieve alone. Their Capella Singapore wedding drew 400 guests from diplomatic and tech circles. Custom Vera Wang gown. $3 million ceremony. Featured in Tatler Asia and the Straits Times. For Olivia, who'd grown up sharing a Chinatown bedroom with her mother, the wedding proved she'd transcended immigrant roots. The first year felt perfect. Sentosa Cove Villa, overlooking the South China Sea. Marcus's art dealing flourished with Olivia's tech contacts. She even considered pregnancy, something she'd always dismissed as incompatible with empire building. By their 2nd anniversary, inconsistencies emerged. Weekend trips to Johor Bahru became monthly, always citing art acquisitions. His explanations were smooth and diplomatic. Olivia noted the statistical improbability, but dismissed it as paranoia. The locked study bothered her more. Marcus claimed it contained sensitive client information requiring security protocols. The explanation made sense until Olivia noticed the dimensions didn't match the villa's blueprints. 12 square meters were unaccounted for. During Marcus's Jakarta trip in April 2023, Olivia hired a locksmith. Behind a false wall concealed by Ming scroll paintings was a second room. Inside, a child's drawing labeled for Papa in crayon. Photographs of Marcus with a young woman and 2 children, ages 4 and 6. A marriage certificate from Singapore's Registry of Muslim Marriages, dated 8 months before Olivia's wedding, bearing Marcus's signature as Marcus bin Abdullah Blackwood. Every algorithm Olivia built to understand human behavior had failed to detect basic deception. The man she'd analyzed, vetted, and married was operating a separate identity her data-driven worldview couldn't process. She didn't confront Marcus immediately. Instead, Olivia Chen did what she did best. She collected data. Olivia Chen's investigation into Marcus Blackwood's second life began with the same precision she applied to debugging code. She contacted Linda Tan, a former Singapore police force detective who now ran Sentinel investigations from a discreet office in Tanjong Pagar. The $50,000 retainer came from Olivia's personal accounts in San Francisco, money Marcus had no access to or knowledge of. "I need complete documentation of my husband's activities," Olivia told Tan during their first meeting on April 18, 2023. "Every location he visits, every person he meets, every transaction he makes. I want data, not assumptions." Tan's team began surveillance on April 20th. Their first report arrived 72 hours later and destroyed what remained of Olivia's carefully constructed reality. Marcus wasn't traveling to Johor Bahru for art acquisitions. He was driving 40 minutes to Geylang Serai, Singapore's traditional Malay quarter, where he maintained a second residence in a modest 3-bedroom apartment. The surveillance photographs showed a life Olivia couldn't process. Marcus exiting the apartment building in traditional Malay songket clothing. A woman in hijab greeting him at the door with the intimacy of a wife. 2 children, ages 6 and 4, running to embrace him. The scene repeated every weekend with the predictability of an algorithm. "Her name is Maya Kumar," Tan explained, spreading documents across her desk. Age 31, senior corporate lawyer at Drew & Napier. Graduated top of her class from National University of Singapore Law School. She married your husband in an Islamic ceremony in August 2018, 8 months before your wedding. The marriage certificate was legitimate, registered with the Registry of Muslim Marriages under Marcus's converted name. He'd embraced Islam in July 2018, a fact Olivia discovered through official conversion documentation. The ceremony had been attended by 60 members of Maya's extended family, all believing Marcus was a divorced British businessman who'd found spiritual fulfillment in their faith. The children were biologically Marcus's. DNA testing through their pediatrician's office, obtained legally through court-ordered discovery, confirmed paternity. The boy, Amir, was born in June 2019, 3 weeks before Olivia's wedding. The girl, Safia, was born in November 2020, while Olivia was undergoing her second round of fertility treatments that Marcus had encouraged and attended. Financial forensics revealed the true scope of Marcus's deception. The art gallery Olivia believed he owned was actually a front for the Kumar family's import-export business. Payments flowing through Blackwood Fine Arts were connected to shell companies in Labuan, Mauritius, and the British Virgin Islands. Client funds were being laundered through high-value art transactions with artificially inflated appraisals. Your husband has been using your tech industry connections to legitimize transactions, Tan continued. When you introduced him to venture capitalists and tech executives, he used those relationships to establish credibility for moving illicit funds through art purchases. Olivia's brilliant networking, her proudest professional achievement, had been weaponized. Every introduction she'd made, every business dinner she'd hosted, every connection she'd facilitated had been exploited to build a money-laundering network worth an estimated $200 million. Medical records proved the cruelest betrayal. While Olivia endured 3 rounds of IVF treatments between 2020 and 2022, spending $80,000 and suffering 2 miscarriages, Marcus was attending parent-teacher conferences at Amir's kindergarten and celebrating Sophia's first steps. The same man who told Olivia they should wait until the business stabilized before having children was coaching his son's soccer team every Saturday. Maya Kumar, Olivia learned, was no naive victim. She held degrees from US and Cambridge, spoke 4 languages, and served on the board of 2 charitable foundations. Her family's business connections had provided Marcus with access to Southeast Asian networks that his British background alone couldn't penetrate. The marriage was professionally advantageous for both parties. "Does she know about me?" Olivia asked, though she dreaded the answer. "No, don't reply." She believes Marcus is a divorced British expat who occasionally travels for international art acquisitions. She has no idea about your marriage or your existence. The systematic deception extended to every aspect of Marcus's life. In Geylang Serai, he was Rashid bin Abdullah, devoted father, observant Muslim, and respected member of Maya's community. In Sentosa Cove, he was Marcus Blackwood, secular international businessman and sophisticated Western husband. He maintained separate wardrobes, separate phones, separate social circles, and apparently separate identities with the skill of a professional intelligence operative. By June 2023, Olivia had compiled 847 pages of documentation. Bank statements, surveillance photograph, property records, medical records, court filings. The evidence told a story of systematic exploitation that had begun the moment Marcus identified her at that Hong Kong auction. She hadn't been courted. She'd been recruited. Olivia's mental state deteriorated as the investigation progressed. She stopped sleeping, surviving on 3 hours of fragmented rest per night. Food became impossible to swallow. Her weight dropped 19 pounds in 5 weeks. The woman who'd built her identity on analytical control found herself trapped in a situation where every certainty had been revealed as calculated deception. The breaking point came on June 1st, 2024, when Olivia discovered Marcus's exit strategy. Divorce papers, already prepared by his attorneys, outlined her systematic destruction. Adultery accusations supported by fabricated evidence. Claims that her tech connections had unknowingly facilitated his legitimate art business. Financial settlements that would leave her with nothing while Marcus retained all assets acquired during their marriage. He'd been planning to destroy her professionally, financially, and personally while keeping everything her expertise had helped him build. Olivia began planning her response with the same methodical precision she'd applied to her most complex algorithms. The anniversary suite at Marina Bay Sands was booked for June 8th. The evidence was organized with courtroom precision, and the antique jade Buddha statue, a wedding gift from Marcus's business partner, sat prominently on their coffee table. She hadn't planned it as a weapon, but its symbolic value was perfect. Their first anniversary gift would become the instrument of their final conversation. Marcus arrived at Marina Bay Sands at 7:30 p.m. on June 8th, 2024, expecting a romantic celebration. Olivia had played her role perfectly for weeks, discussing their relationship's early memories and expressing gratitude for their life together. She'd booked the infinity suite overlooking the Singapore skyline, the same room where they'd spent their first night in the city 5 years earlier. Marcus brought white orchids, Singapore's national flower, and seemed genuinely pleased by Olivia's apparent sentimentality. He'd dressed in the Tom Ford suit she'd given him for their 4th anniversary, worn his wedding band, and arrived carrying a gift box from Tiffany. The dinner conversation felt surreal. Marcus discussed his latest acquisition, a Tang Dynasty ceramic that a Russian oligarch was selling for $4.2 million. Olivia asked interested questions about provenance and investment returns, playing the supportive wife one final time. The man across from her seemed so familiar that she almost doubted her own evidence. "I've been thinking about our future," Olivia said as dessert arrived. "About what we want from the next phase of our lives." Marcus smiled, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "I want whatever makes you happy," he said. The same words he'd spoken during their engagement in the Botanic Gardens. Olivia began laying out the photographs systematically, like presenting a product demo to investors. She arranged them chronologically across the white tablecloth. Marcus with Maya at their Islamic wedding ceremony. Marcus holding newborn Amir. Marcus celebrating Sophia's 3rd birthday. Marcus at parent-teacher conferences. Marcus living an entire life Olivia had never known existed. His expression shifted from confusion to shock to cold calculation within seconds. She watched him process the implications, his diplomatic training clearly calculating damage control strategies. "We need to discuss Maya Kumar," Olivia said quietly. "And your children with her. And your plans to divorce me while keeping everything we've built together." The transformation in Marcus's demeanor was instantaneous. The charming husband disappeared, replaced by a stranger whose eyes held no warmth. This was the man who'd orchestrated deceptions across continents, who'd used love as a weapon and marriage as a business strategy. "You have no right to interfere in family matters you don't understand," Marcus said, his voice carrying diplomatic authority Olivia had never heard before. "Maya and the children are my real family. You were always a business arrangement." The words hit harder than any physical blow. 5 years dismissed as business. Her fertility struggles mocked while he celebrated birthdays with another woman's children. Her professional expertise exploited while her personal worth was deemed negligible. "You used me," Olivia said, her voice barely controlled. "Used my reputation, my skills, my connections. And now you're planning to destroy me to protect yourself." Marcus stood up, straightening his jacket with casual confidence. "You'll sign the divorce papers and accept the settlement we've prepared. Fighting will only make things worse for you. My family has connections across Singapore. Who do you think the courts will believe?" Olivia realized Marcus wasn't just planning to abandon her. He was planning to destroy her so completely that she could never threaten his other life. The man she'd loved had never existed. In his place stood a predator who'd identified her vulnerabilities and exploited them with surgical precision. "This conversation is over," Marcus said, moving toward the door. "My lawyers will contact you tomorrow." But Olivia had spent 5 years learning that when Marcus decided a conversation was over, it was really over. This time she would determine when their relationship ended. The jade Buddha statue felt heavier than its actual weight as Olivia lifted it from the coffee table. Years of betrayal, manipulation, and stolen dreams crystallized into a single moment of terrible clarity. Marcus turned back toward her, perhaps sensing movement, and their eyes met one final time. "No, Marcus," Olivia said with mathematical precision. "Now it's over." The first strike caught him across his left temple, the jade connecting with a sound like breaking glass. He stumbled sideways, blood immediately streaming down his face, shock replacing the cold confidence that had dominated his features moments before. "You destroyed 2 families," Olivia said, raising the statue again. "You stole 5 years of my life. You made me an accomplice to your crimes." The second blow struck his chest as he tried to shield his head. Marcus collapsed to his knees, gasping, his eyes wide with the realization that the controlled, predictable wife he'd manipulated was gone forever. "Please," Marcus whispered, barely audible. "Victoria, please. We can work this out." But Olivia was beyond negotiation. The third strike was delivered with the same methodical accuracy she'd once applied to closing business deals. Marcus Blackwood died on the floor of their anniversary suite at 9:34 p.m., surrounded by evidence of his double life and the shattered remains of what Olivia had believed was their perfect marriage. She sat back in the white leather chair where the evening had begun, the bloody jade statue resting in her lap, and felt a strange sense of completion. The phone call to Singapore police came at 9:47 p.m. "This is Olivia Chun at Marina Bay Sands Tower 3, penthouse 5701, she said with the same calm precision she'd once used for conference calls. "I've just killed my husband. Send detectives immediately." Olivia made no attempt to clean the blood from her hands or change her stained dress. When Detective Inspector Raj Krishnan arrived at 10:05 p.m., he found her sitting motionless beside Marcus's body, the evidence of his deception still spread across the dining table. She answered questions with complete honesty, showing investigators the photographs and documents that had motivated her actions. "He had another family," she explained calmly. "He was planning to destroy my reputation and steal everything I'd worked for. I couldn't let him win." The investigation that followed revealed the full scope of Marcus's deception to a shocked Singapore community. Media outlets seized on the story, with headlines screaming variations of tech CEO kills bigamist husband and double life ends in Marina Bay murder. International news networks picked up the story within hours, making it a global sensation. Maya Kumar learned about Olivia's existence through a phone call from police investigators at 11:30 p.m. that same night. The woman who had believed herself to be Marcus's only wife discovered she'd been sharing her husband with another woman for 5 years. Her children, ages 6 and 4, would grow up knowing their father had been murdered by a woman they'd never known existed. The financial investigation expanded into multiple international jurisdictions as authorities discovered the true extent of Marcus's money laundering operations. The Kumar family business, built over 3 generations, faced scrutiny from banking regulators across Southeast Asia. Assets worth $200 million were frozen pending investigation into their legitimate ownership. Olivia's trial began 8 months later in Singapore state courts, attracting international media attention and becoming a landmark case in Singapore legal history. The prosecution, led by Deputy Public Prosecutor James Tan, painted Olivia as a cold-blooded killer who had planned her husband's murder with the same calculation she'd applied to business deals. The accused arranged every detail of this confrontation, Tan argued during opening statements. She chose the location, prepared the evidence, and brought the weapon. This was premeditated murder disguised as a crime of passion. Olivia's defense team, headed by prominent criminal lawyer Sarah Lim, built their case around temporary insanity caused by cumulative psychological abuse. Expert witnesses testified about the devastating impact of discovering systematic betrayal, financial exploitation, and reproductive sabotage simultaneously. Ms. Chun was driven to a psychological breaking point by a pattern of abuse that destroyed her sense of reality, Lim argued. She discovered that her marriage, her career success, and her hopes for children had all been deliberately manipulated by a man who saw her as a business asset rather than a human being. The trial revealed intimate details of both families' destruction. Maya Kumar testified about her shock at learning about Olivia's existence, describing how Marcus had convinced her he was a divorced British businessman who had found peace in Islam. Olivia's mother flew from San Francisco to testify about her daughter's transformation from a controlled, successful woman into someone consumed by betrayal. Medical experts debated whether Olivia's actions constituted temporary insanity or calculated revenge. Prosecutors emphasized the methodical preparation and evidence arrangement, while defense attorneys highlighted the psychological trauma of discovering systematic deception across multiple aspects of her life. The verdict came after 5 days of jury deliberation. Olivia Chun was found guilty of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, acknowledging the presence of extreme emotional circumstances while rejecting the temporary insanity defense. Judge Patricia Wong sentenced Olivia to 12 years in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 8 years. This court recognizes the extraordinary circumstances that drove Ms. Chun to violence, Judge Wong stated during sentencing. However, we cannot condone taking justice into one's own hands, regardless of the provocation involved. Olivia's final statement to the court became internationally quoted. I calculated the cost of my actions against the cost of allowing Marcus to destroy more lives. On a purely mathematical basis, the solution was clear. The Chen Blackwood case triggered significant changes in Singapore's legal framework. Banking institutions implemented stricter monitoring of complex international transactions. Support organizations developed programs for expatriate families dealing with cultural and legal complexities in international marriages. 6 years later, Olivia Chun serves her sentence at Changi Women's Prison, where she teaches computer science to fellow inmates and maintains correspondence with former Silicon Valley colleagues. Her Neuralink AI company was sold to a Chinese tech conglomerate for $340 million in 2025. The proceeds, minus legal fees and victim compensation, were placed in a trust fund that Olivia cannot access until her release. Maya Kumar relocated to London with her children in 2025, changing their surname to simply Kumar and building a new life away from Singapore scrutiny. She works as a compliance consultant for international law firms, using her experience to help companies identify financial fraud. Her children, now 12 and 10, attend private school in Kensington and know their father as a man who deceived everyone who trusted him. The Kumar family business never recovered from a scandal. Properties worth $80 million were seized by Singapore authorities as proceeds of crime. Maya's father died in 2026, reportedly from stress-related heart failure. The family name, once respected in Singapore's business community, became synonymous with corruption and deception. Olivia's case established legal precedent in Singapore regarding psychological abuse in domestic violence cases. The landmark ruling in Chun versus Public Prosecutor SGCA 14 recognized cumulative emotional trauma as a mitigating factor in violent crimes, though it stopped short of accepting temporary insanity as a complete defense. Banking institutions across Southeast Asia implemented stricter monitoring protocols following revelations about Marcus's money laundering network. The Monetary Authority of Singapore introduced new regulations requiring enhanced due diligence for high-value art transactions, a direct response to the Blackwood case. Expatriate support organizations in Singapore developed programs specifically addressing the vulnerabilities faced by foreign spouses in international marriages. The Know Your Rights initiative, launched in 2026, provides legal education and cultural resources to prevent the exploitation Olivia experienced. Detective Inspector Raj Krishnan, who investigated the case, was promoted to superintendent and now heads Singapore Police Force's Family Violence Specialist Center. He frequently cites the Chun case in training sessions as an example of how systematic psychological abuse can escalate to lethal violence. The Jade Buddha statue that killed Marcus Blackwood was destroyed per court order in 2025. Its estimated value had increased to $3.8 million by the time of its destruction, but Judge Wong ruled that preserving it would constitute profiting from crime. Olivia maintains regular communication with her elderly mother in San Francisco through video calls from prison. She's written a memoir titled The Algorithm of Betrayal that's scheduled for publication in 2027, pending approval from Singapore's prison authorities. Publishers estimate it will sell 500,000 copies in its first year. In her prison cell, Olivia keeps a photograph from her MIT graduation, the moment that began her journey to Singapore. Sometimes she calculates how different her life might have been if she trusted her analytical instincts when inconsistencies first appeared in Marcus's behavior patterns. But even in confinement, Olivia Chun stands by her final calculation. In a world where justice is often denied and truth is buried under wealth and influence, sometimes the only remaining solution requires accepting consequences that extend far beyond mathematical precision. The perfect life she'd built with Marcus Blackwood had been an elaborate algorithm designed to exploit her vulnerabilities. But the justice she delivered was devastatingly real. And in Olivia's analytical mind, that equation finally balanced. Eligible for parole in 2032, she's already planning her next venture, a cybersecurity company specializing in detecting financial fraud in international marriages. The woman who once trusted algorithms over people has learned that sometimes the most dangerous variable in any equation is the human heart.